Kevin Roth here of RotoGrinders, and today we're going to talk about the RG Discord. If you're not a member, you should be. It is a fantastic community and resource that RotoGrinders provides, and it's easy to join as well. All you have to do is click the Discord icon on RotoGrinders or go to rotogrinders.com/discord. From there, you'll either sign up if you're new to RG, or if you're already a member, just click the link at the top to go to the sign-in page. Once you've logged into your RG account, you can be taken to Discord to log in there. Once you've connected those accounts, you won't have to leave the server. You can freely close out and reopen Discord without ever having to reconnect. The idea of Discord might be a little bit daunting to you, but it's actually pretty simple to navigate. Whether you're on mobile or desktop, the far left side will show you the Discord servers that you've already joined. Then next to that, you'll see the channels within that Discord. We have both free channels like Chiefs Prop Shop and our daily sport channels, and we also have premium channels like Blender's Game Theory or the Crunch Time channels. Premium members can see the difference between the free and premium channels by looking for a padlock icon next to the premium channel names. We also have a few pointers for new and experienced users alike. If you're having trouble finding a channel, make sure that you haven't collapsed the section that the channel is in. Collapsing a channel will only allow it to appear when there are unread messages in that channel. Also, we find that using the actual Discord program works better than opening it in a browser like Safari or Chrome. Lastly, if you're having trouble with one of our tools, your RotoGrinders account, or any other technical needs, you can hop in our feedback and help section of channels to get help from one of our wonderful support and moderation team members. If you have any more questions, feel free to reach out on Twitter @RotoGrinders or email support@rotogrinders.com. See you in Discord.
Good morning, Grinders. Welcome to the DFS pregame show here on RotoGrinders. I'm Jordan Cooper, aka Blenderhead, Blender HD. If you want to follow me there on Twitter, and it's Tuesday, it's April 12th, and it's MLB, right? We're like 4 days in. We're 4 days in. Are you sick of it already? Are you sick? Are you tired of the variance? Do you know how to embrace variance? Well, we'll be talking about that today, about yesterday's slate. But first things first, give me those thummy thumbs. You know me, I love the thummy thumbs. Hit that like button, hit the thumbs up button, whatever you want to call that button. The button with the little pointy thing facing the ceiling. Give that to me. It helps us out. Subscribe to the channel if you're new here. And click the notification bell to know when we go live. We got a lot of shows on this YouTube channel. And it's not just me in the morning, right? We got stuff, Grinders Live. There'll be golf stuff, and there's MMA maybe or something. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff going on. You might as well watch it. I see the YouTube chat no, Suki Singh got beaten out today. Infamous Tuck was here first, and then real life pitcher Eric Hilpold. Yeah, I'm starting to see like the baseball people come back, right? Not the NBA people, the basketball folks. Kickstart, Daniel Hutchinson's here. Zach Hobbs, Neil Jaworski. Blender, I need to say thank you. Took second for $2,500 in the MLB Minimax last night using an A's Vomit stack. Huge bankroll boost for me. I've learned so much from the Theory of DFS podcast. Let's take a look. We got results, DB, up here. Let's take a look. Second place, Neil Jaworski. Let's see. Do we have Draftkings? Let's see. We're retrieving the... Okay, here. It's very easy to find. It's Neil_Jaworski. Right, let's take a look-see. Neil Jaworski. Right, there you go. I mean, come on, it's not really that complicated, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 1. There you go. And with Alec Manoah, Paul Blackburn at 3%. Right? With the thing that people don't realize a lot of times when transitioning from NBA to MLB. NBA is a sport with very limited correlations. Like you're barely considering correlation when building your lineups. Baseball is a sport with heavy correlations. Maybe not as heavy as like esports or something like that, like League of Legends, but very correlative, which means that you don't necessarily care about like individual player ownerships as much as like the combination of players in your lineup. So like you look at this and like in basketball, you rarely see a lineup winning or doing well that have like pretty much most of the lineup like single digit owned. In baseball, you see this all the time, right? Ohtani was chalk as like a one-off, and then we had the Braves were chalky, right? I was playing on FanDuel last night, so I mean, maybe it's slightly different, but I think the Braves were still the chalk stack, the chalk team on Draftkings as well. And so it's a matter of just combining teams. Like, look, George Springer is 9%, 9.7%. Teoscar Hernandez, 7.7%. And Vlad Guerrero, 9.2%. You can't view these things as like them as you. At some point, you have to view them individually as well. But between these three players, they're all on the Blue Jays. So 9%, 9%, and 7%. I would say more than half the lineups between these three, all three are in the lineup also. So it's not that Vlad is 9%, George Springer is 9%, and Teoscar is 7%. It's more like the combination of those three players are a total of 4.5%, right? As a combo. Because in baseball, you're more likely to obviously play them together because you're stacking in baseball GPPs. Same thing for the A's. You go 3.5% for Murphy, 3.7% for Kemp, 0.8% for Noose, and 2.5% for Andrews. But most likely, if you have Andrews, you have Kemp, you have Murphy in your lineup, you're most of this ownership is going to be like A's stacks, 5-man, 4-man, 3-mans, right? You'll see one-offs also, but you'll see plenty of that. So this is Sheldon Noose, obviously at 0.8% owned, gets you even lower on the combination. So you're pretty much viewing your lineup as the ownership. I'm using Neil's lineup as just an example. It's not you got to play his lineup, but the way that you should be thinking about baseball, about MLB DFS, is I would say a kind of like a jigsaw puzzle of three different parts, right? It would be 3 different parts. Yeah, some 3 or 4 different parts. I'm going back and forth, right? So what are the 4 parts? Okay, it's 1 is the pitchers. Okay, so I'm considering the ownership of the pitchers. On DraftKings, you have 2, and FanDuel, you have 1. Then the first part is your primary stack of whatever type. But here's the A's. The third part would be the secondary stack, the 3 part in the lineup or whatever. That's why I said it's 3 or 4. It's the stacks. And then the fourth part would be any one-off type of thing. So Byron Buxton, 18%. Like, instead of viewing it as, okay, it's 10 players with these ownerships, it's Alek Manoah with 25% ownership. It's Paul Blackburn with 3% ownership. It's an A's 4-man with like 1% total owner, like one. Sheldon Noose makes that really low. And then like an 8% owned, around that 3-man Blue Jays. And you're combining that together, right? We go up to the winning lineup over here, right? Here's multiple one-offs, right? So you have 1, 2, 3, 4-man A's stack. And then you have like just 4 one-offs. Now, is that necessarily the greatest construction? No. On a low-scoring slates, anything could happen. But now you have to consider multiple one-offs. It's still basically pitchers, stacks, one-offs, right? So when correlation is so high in MLB, like what if I'm playing a 5-man stack? What do I don't care. You're way overthinking. If you go, well, do I play this guy or that guy? Unless you're playing like one lineup and it's like, I need to get it perfect, and I don't mind spending an hour determining on what exactly type of Philadelphia Phillies stack do I want versus a one-off. Like, yeah, if you want to spend extra time, it's mostly worthless to do. But if you're playing single entry stuff, I can understand being like, well, let me see. Do I play Springer? Do I play Buxton? Do I play Ohtani? Do I play Harper? Do I play? And if you want to play that game of what one off to play, feel free to do so. Over the course of a season, it's gonna be 50-50. You're not gonna get to dive deep into, is this a good matchup for Soto or for Trout, or they're all great hitters. But that's how you have to view. That's how you have to view MLB lineups. Most people dramatically overthink MLB DFS. Dramatically. Yesterday was, I mean, the Oakland A's had the lowest stack projection on the entire slate. Okay, they had the lowest stack projection in the bat, in any way you look, right? They also had the lowest ownership, right? The A's on FanDuel were under owned. The A's on DraftKings maybe were about efficiently owned. 2% for Andrews, 1% for Pin. That seems about right. Seth Brown, 2%. FanDuel, they were like 1% or below. Like none of the A's were more than like 1.2% or anything on FanDuel. Because obviously FanDuel's a little bit softer pricing, one pitcher, and you could fit everything. You could fit, and Trout was scratched, right? Right. We didn't have to worry about Trout anymore. So there's one expensive hitter that people were going to play that now you don't have to spend on. Neil Jaworski says, felt like Patino was over-owned and forced some A stacks for leverage. Got lucky and Patino got hurt. Yeah, but that's, dude, you're playing my game. This is what I mean by don't dramatically overthink MLB. There is so much variance in baseball. It is an event-driven sport where good pitchers could get blown up, bad pitchers could have good games. Now, they're not going to have 22 good games in a row, but they do have good games. You have teams with 6.5 implied run totals that get shut out. There are teams that have 3.2 run totals that put up 18 runs. It happens. And you're going to play over the course of a 162-game season. You're going to play slates 7, 8, 10, 12 games, 15 games on the slate. There's going to be, not everything's going to plan every slate. Stuff that remember, the projections you're looking at are medians. And it's an event-driven sport. So, like, it's rare that these medians happen. It's going to be a wide range of outcomes. Now, the Braves yesterday had a wide range of outcomes, shifted a little bit more towards the good side. But it's not like so dramatically more. If we take a look at ownership, where's the let's go. This is the mini max. Let's go to the realist throw. Okay, so we take a look at ownership on DraftKings at least. Right, like I said, I played on FanDuel, so it's slightly different. If we take a look at this ownership, if we go like, let's see, filter by position, and I can't even switch. I don't know. Do we have to fix that? Then we need to fix something in results DB. That should be, I should be able to just look at starting pitchers or whatever. But well, look, Austin Riley, Ozzie Albies, Marcelo Ozuna, 20, 27, 25, 25% owned. Like a quarter of the lineups in the contest have like Brave stats. Over-owned. Shohei Ohtani as a one-off because the Angel stack started going down with Trout out. Luis Patino on a pitch count, especially early in the season. Like, I just X'd out Patino. Now, I understand on DraftKings you have to play two pitchers. Yesterday was a slate where you're like, I don't want to play any pitchers. But I didn't have to. So, like on FanDuel, I played a lot of Alec Manoah. No, but the Yankees are a bad matchup. None of the pitchers are good. I don't care about the matchup. I care about who's the most likely to either one, go 6 innings to get the quality start bonus on FanDuel, be eligible for the win, or at least pick up like 5+ strikeouts, even if he gives up some runs. Like Alek Manoah is like the only guy on the slate. Maybe Alex Wood, right? Alex Wood also. Like here's two people that maybe, right? And you're gonna play a guy with like he's like capped at like 60 to 65 pitches, but it's against the A's and they're horrible. It doesn't matter. I care about ceiling, right? So that's why, like to me, Luis Patino was a non-starter yesterday. And Neil does the thing that I love doing. What SP2, what non-ace pitcher is going over-owned? And he plays stacks against him. Doesn't now, does that mean I'm going to play 150 lineups and play like all ace stacks? No, of course not. Right? You could if you want, if they're under-owned enough and you want to just embrace that, go for it. You could. But if you played ace stacks yesterday, which I didn't, I played 100 lineups on FanDuel. I did not play ace stacks. But if you did, I don't know the dynamic on DraftKings, but if you did on FanDuel, had I known that the A stacks would be that low, and Patino's ownership even on FanDuel was like 14% or something, he was owned somewhat. I would have played. I would have made it end up with like 3 lineups, maybe 2 lineups or something like that. I was focused on the Marlins. I had a lot of Marlins. That didn't work out. I had Marlins and Mariners, right? Very good. Like they combined between both teams scored 2 runs. But I viewed what Neil did, I did with Dylan Bundy. I expected Dylan Bundy to be more popular than Luis Patino. And I'll play the Mariners against him. So I did the same thing, just with a different pitcher. It's just like, I think the Matt Haniger and Winker and Suarez and Toro, that lineup seems much better than the A's lineup. So I'm like, oh, I'll just hope Dylan Bundy is just good old Dylan Bundy and gives up 4 home runs in a game. And that didn't happen, right? But this is what you have to do in MLB. Like, dude, that you're going to lose more, like all the time in MLB. This is the type of sport that if you're gonna play 20 lineups, 50 lineups, 100 lineups, that you're not just jamming in value. It's not NBA. This is like the diametrically opposed sport to NBA. MLB is the type of thing where when people ask me, it's like, I'm playing 100 lineups on FanDuel last night. It's like, well, what stacks did you have? It's like more than half the teams. I have a stack of more than half the team. Now, how many of them is going to be different, but who do I have? Yeah, the stack I had the most of was Miami, and the stack that I was most underweight to the field was Atlanta. They were the truck stack, and it's April. No, we don't have seven team totals or anything. I think on a 7-game slate, I don't think there's a reason why a stack should be 25+% off. People played Tampa Bay, and I barely had them. They were over-owned on FanDuel. I'm always saying on FanDuel because I played on FanDuel yesterday. I will switch back and forth. Depending on the payout structure of the large field contests, I will switch back and forth. That's pretty much what I do. So like on DK, if I'm with $15, not like 50,000 a first and 10,000 a second, I'll probably play like 50 lineups into that. On FanDuel, if it's like what it was yesterday, $4.44, but it was like, it's still 30,000. And by the time you get to 10th place, it's like $500. So what's 10th place? 500. So I can't, the general rule is I'm not going to enter as much volume as more than 10th place in a contest. But people overthink this. I think that's what they're talking about in the chat. Let's see. JPL says saw awesome on Brick 75 with some 3-3-2 stacks last night. Yeah, you can play those. The smaller the slate gets, the more those types of lineups become higher expected value. And even on large slates, if you're playing if every team is playing, you're playing a 15-game slate, You could still play 3-3-2. There just aren't as many plus EV 3-3-2s. That's you have to get into this mindset. Okay. I try to teach this in the theory of DFS, right? 15-hour audio DFS masterclass you can pick up at theoryofdfs.com. That it's not about what is a plus EV. Like people are typically the wrong process is to think of what are the traits of a plus EV lineup and then replicate that. And that's not what you should be doing. You should be thinking of, so for instance, when people ask, it's like, well, especially in baseball, because we'll get, trust me, by August, I'll be screaming. I'll pulling my hair out because people for the 7 millionth time will ask about what stack type is the best. There's no such thing as the best stack type. You're playing lineups, not players. Remember, okay? So people like, do I? Here's a 15-game slate. Do I play 5-3 or 5-1-1-1 or 4-3-1 or 3-3-2 or anything like that? And what I will say to you, it's like instead of thinking that way, think of build plus EV lineups, because there may be a lineup like we always talk about. DFS is a game of getting the most projection for the least ownership. Now in baseball, it's event driven, so projections, the range of outcomes is very wide. So a median projection, this lineup is 0.1 higher median projection. It may not matter. That may completely get washed out by variance. So when people ask, like, how much projection do you give up for ownership in MLB? Like, dude, one swing of the bat is 14 points, possibly. Like, dude, you could play lineups that are like 50 points lower median projected, no problem in baseball, especially if they're correlated, right? If you're playing the A stack, it doesn't matter what the ownership of your lineup is anymore. Okay. So people think in terms of like, what is the best instead of thinking of what is viable, what is viably plus EV. So go, okay, on a 15-game slate, you always stack 5-man. It's like, well, they're going to be 4-man stacks, 4-3-1 lineups that are plus EV, even on a 15-game slate. They're going to be 4-1-1-1-1-1 lineups that are plus EV, even on a 15-game slate. The difference is there's going to be less of them. So if you were to know all the lineups that you're competing against, right? If you were to know that, okay, so you're in a contest, how many people? 27,450 entries, and you're playing 150 or whatever amount of number. If you knew what 27,300 were in the contest already, and then it's your lineups of 150, and you were to make a 150 set, how often should you be playing those stack types? You wouldn't think that way. You would just like, what lineups are plus EV versus those 27,300 lineups? Which ones are higher EV and which ones are lower? Which ones are plus EV in general? And you could probably build thousands upon thousands, about tens of thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands on a 15-game slate, especially against those 27,300 lineups. You could build 15,000 plus EV lineups of various standard deviations and various returns, but they would be profitable. You go, well, but they're not all equal, but I mean, they're profitable. So which 150 out of the 150, which 150 out of the 15,000, well, should I play? Well, some will have certain teams more than others. And it turns out of the 15,000 lineups, would you guess it, the high team total teams tend to appear in more of them. Not in all of them, but in more of them. Right? Under-owned teams relative to their chance of success appear more frequently in lineups of that 15,000 to choose from than lineups of over-owned, like in this past slate. There would be less plus EV Braves teams. Doesn't mean there would be none, right? Doesn't mean, I just press the X button and say I'm not going to play any Brave. No, there are still 5-man. There are still 5-man stacks of the 5 chalkiest Braves that would still be plus EV. It's just now the rest of the lineup is going to be a little bit weirder. So those exist also. They also, there's some out of the 15,000, there'll be some 4-man stacks. There'll be some 3-man. There even may be, if you're running, like if you're like Nerdy Tenor and you're really running a lot, the most amount of combinations you can, dude, you may find lineups that aren't even stacks, right? Out of the 15,000 lineups that you run through there, you may find there may be 3 lineups that are literally not even a stack. Like it's just like it's 2, 1, 1. It's like it's a lineup that you look at and you go, "Who's the idiot that didn't correlate in baseball?" And it may turn out, but there aren't going to be many of those, if any. Right? There aren't going to be as many out of that 15,000. So when you ask, do you play 5-3? Do you play 5-1-1? Do you play 4-3? It all depends on the lineup. Like, is that lineup plus EV? Now, the larger the slate, the more 5-man stack lineups on DraftKings, obviously, because you can't do 5-man on FanDuel. The more 5-man stacks there are, that could be plus EV. So if by default you just build 5-man stacks, you're more likely to capture plus EV lineups, only because there's more plus EV 5-man stack lineups. So by default, if you were to just on a large slate, on a 10+ game slate or whatever, even on a 7-game slate, if you just defaulted to 5-man stacks every slate, you'd probably find more plus EV lineups than you would trying to find ones that aren't 5-man stacks over the course of the season. That wouldn't be worth it to try to find 4-man, 3-man, any of the other, because there are going to be less of them. Now, as the slate gets smaller, you're playing a 3-game slate, then you don't have any choices to choose from. So maybe spend the extra time. Like now in those slates, typically 5-mans are overplayed. There are actually many more 3-3-2s, 2-3, 2s and 3s and minis, those types of lineups that are profitable. Because there aren't as many teams on the slate, so it's less likely that you'll need to stack 5 guys from one team when the highest scoring team scores 4 runs or something. Right? On a larger slate, it's most likely the team that scores the most runs, you're gonna want 5 guys from that team. Right? So if you just did that, but if you played a 3-3-2 lineup on a 15-game slate, that isn't wrong. But there's just less of those types of lineups that are plus EV. Now, use people like Osimo or Brick75, Nerdy Tenor, Daniel in the chat, are using more of a process where that is being simulated and decided for them. That, yeah, portion of the lineups will look like that. And that's one of the plus EV lineups that looks like that. They're not going in and saying, putting in the stacks page and saying, I want 100%, I want 80% of this, I want 20% of that. Like, no, the simulations are just doing it for them. Okay, let's see. Going through the YouTube chat. But you got to go through results TV. You should be doing this every morning, or at least every night after the last game locks or whatever. Learn from sharper players. Don't learn from your results. Well, Luis Patino, let's go through Luis Patino. Where's Luis Patino? Filter by team. Yeah, they got to fix the filter by position. Someone has to mark that down. Someone mark that down in Slack. It's going to be a pain in the ass, because especially when you're trying to do pitchers versus whatever. Okay, so let's go to Tampa Bay. Right? So Luis Patino, based on who I've saved here, he was, 21% owned. And, Brick had 32. I understand on DraftKings, playing 2 pitchers on yesterday's slate, tough, right? But the Colts 2.7, E. Hafner had 0, Ahabro had 0, RBX 88 at 10, Royal Payne at 11. Like more often than not, yeah, a little bit under in general. But this is what you kind of look at. Like if you played Luis Patino and we looked here and like almost no one played them, then maybe you screwed up. The fact that he pitched 13 pitches and came out of the game injured and scored -1 points or whatever, doesn't mean you made a mistake. No. Because look at this. I respect all these players. Some people got different elsewhere. If you played Patino, you got different elsewhere. If you didn't play Patino, you didn't have to worry about that. So you look here and you look, so the results don't matter. I mean, eventually they do, right? Obviously. That's why you use results TV to study lineups. Right, Daniel Hutchings gives the exact point. It's 2022. I've been saying this even 2017, definitely. Like if you were to do the 5-man by default, considering what others would do, I think in practice, though, the field doesn't stack 5 and 4 enough. So it's probably easiest, most efficient to just do that. Yes, that's exactly what I find. So on large slates, larger slates, well, we'll start to get larger slates than 70s. I pretty much only do 5-man stacks. That's it. Can I find 4-man stacks that are also plus B? Yeah, but I mean, on a 15-game, 13, 12-game slate, there's just so many damn lineups you can make that are good. So I have to have some type of qualifier. It's more efficient for me to just, okay, well, let's just pull 5-man stacks. Yesterday on FanDuel, I did all 4-3-1. Typically on FanDuel, I typically make 4-3-1 stacks, no matter the size of the slate or anything. Well, obviously I typically don't play 3-game slates on FanDuel. I do the 4-3-1 because of the utility position. That's a conversation for another day. That's a conversation for the utility. The utility slot on FanDuel is the biggest, and obviously only one pitcher, and also the catcher. You don't have to play catcher. I guess those are like the major differences between FanDuel and DraftKings. But that utility spot is, I think the utility spot on FanDuel is more of a difference between that to adjust to than the one pitcher. Most people view it as like, oh, it's a 1-pitcher site, it's a 2-pitcher site. It's like, no, it's a utility slot site. For me, at least, it's a utility slot site and a non-utility slot site. Because it makes one-offs way more important. And I'm assuming maybe Daniel could run some tests for me. Something that it's the same thing. It's the very same concept of playing 3 outfielders from the same team in your stack on DraftKings. The utility spot on FanDuel makes it very difficult to win with much less. It's not very difficult, but one-offs are way more important because you could play any of them. So, for instance, if you want me to explain the very bare basics, is that, and this me and Neil talked about this on the Theory of DFS podcast that's going to come out this afternoon. But like on this slate, for instance, right? We look here. Let's go to. I mean, this is if Vlad Guerrero hits a home run, right? He's first base only, right? I believe. If he hits a home run and Matt Olson hits a home run. On DraftKings, no one can have both of them, right? So essentially, it doesn't matter which one you have. I mean, obviously, you may have Blue Jay stacks versus A's stacks or whatever, but from a one-off perspective, if both of them hit 2 home runs, both of them hit 3 home runs, both of them hit 4 of it. Let's keep on going, right? So Vlad Guerrero is sitting there with 60 fantasy points, right? And Matt Olson goes off and he hits 4 home runs. Now he's sitting there with 60 fantasy points. On DraftKings, you can't have both of them. So if Matt Olson is 15% owned or whatever, 25% owned, and Vlad's 10% owned, Vlad's ownership doesn't even matter anymore, right? Olson's ownership doesn't matter anymore. Like if you have Guerrero over Olson, it doesn't, you could only roster one. On FanDuel, that isn't true. FanDuel, you could play 2 first basemen because you have that utility spot. So when that's the case, it's more likely that one-offs outside of stacks, the team didn't go off, but the player did, are more likely to appear in winning lineups, in the highest ceiling lineups, which is the main reason why I try not to play 4-4s on FanDuel. I'll play 4-3-1s. 4-4 will lock you out of that. So if you play a 4-man from this team and a 4-man from that team, and some other team did, these two teams do well, and then one team puts up, whatever amount of points, and Eloy Jimenez has a grand slam and a 3-run homer, and he's sitting there on FanDuel with 58 fantasy points, right? And you're looking at your stack, and you have an outfielder there that has 25. I mean, that had a 3-run home run. But if you would have just replaced that guy with Eloy Jimenez for the similar price and made it a 4-3-1, you have the nuts. That's more likely to happen on FanDuel. Can I intrinsically, mathematically prove it? No. I can intuitively, conceptually ponder it. It's something where it's something where if I'm making a mistake, it's not a big mistake. But if I'm doing something that's plus EV, it's going to provide even more edge. So if Nerdy Tenor could maybe run some, or just basically maybe even look on his FanDuel lineups versus draft. The DraftKings, you'd look at how often versus the field or something. You're using 3 outfielders from the same team, right? In the outfield slots, because I'm not talking about like a first baseman outfielder that is in the first baseman spot. I'm just talking about locking up all 3 outfield slots with as part of the stack. And then on FanDuel, it's how often than not are 4-4s versus 4-3-1s the nut lineup. But those are things, remember, you think in terms of more likely and less likely. Not what the best, there's no best. Oh, I'm not going to make 4-4s on FanDuel anymore. There's plenty of great 4-4 lineups. The problem is that, let's say you're building 20 and it's a 14-game slate. And if I told you there were 174,000 plus EV lineups that you could play tonight, that if you played any 20 of them, I'd say, okay, some are better than others, right? But they're all profitable over the long run. Which 20 do you play? You have 174,000 to choose from. Like, there has to be some method of which 20 do you play. Some people just close your eyes, random, whatever. You can do that. So it doesn't matter. Okay, so I'm gonna make a strategic decision. Out of these 174,000 lineups, I'm just going to weed out anything that isn't a 5-man stack. So it's like, okay, I'm going to get rid of it. Now you're down to 112,000 lineups, right? Because there's more 5-man stacks in there. And then you go, I want to make sure to have a good amount of one-offs. So I'm not going to play a 5-3. So you start getting rid of 5-3 lines. Now you're down to 101,000, right? That you're basically just excluding all these traits just for the sake of efficiency. So it's easier to just say, like, I want 20 lineups that are 5-1-1-1s that have, I'm going to X out this, I'm going to X out this pitcher, right? This pitcher is way overowned. I'm just not going to play him. Even though I can build plenty of plus EV lineups. I can build 10,000 plus EV lineups with that pitcher, right? But I'm only playing 20 lineups instead of having 1 out of 20 with that pitcher. It's the get rid of it. Like, that's what you're doing. So it's not a matter of, people try to start from the beginning of like, I have 0 plus EV lineups, and how do I create 20 of them? Instead of thinking in terms of, there are any types of traits exist in this wide expanse of plus EV lineups. And how do I narrow it down to which ones do I actually want to play? Right? And there'll be more lineups with under-owned players and less lineups with over-owned players. We've discussed all of this before. But that's why people dramatically overthink MLB. Dramatically. MLB is close to as simple of a sport as golf is. I would consider golf to be one of the simplest sports. MMA would be one of the simpler sports. I think golf is simpler than MMA because golf, there's no correlation. Right? MMA, it's like, well, do you play fighters against each other? Yeah, at least have to think about that. In golf, it doesn't matter. So just spend most of your salary usually and pick 6 golfers. A lot of times you could just do that. Just spend 49.5 and just, as long as it fits that salary, it's probably a fine, competitive. I don't know what the ownership is. Right? Then once you start comparing ownership, then you could see which lineups are, a little bit better than others. But other than that, golf, like if you wanted to just close your eyes and just pick 6 golfers, even if it's a bad lineup, it can't be that much worse than other lineups. Like the differences between lineups is very narrow in golf. But it's very similar in MLB. Yes, it's an event-driven sport, but it's absurd amount of variance. So I just think in terms of what teams are overowned and what teams are underowned. What pitchers are overowned, what pitchers are underowned. What one-offs are underowned, what one-offs are overowned. And then it's just a matter of, I want to play less of the overowned stuff and more of the underowned stuff. And then give me 100 lineups. And that's it. You just press a button, right? And then you see what lineups come out. And you go, okay, well, the Braves are going to be like 25% owned as a stack. I'm playing 10%, right? I'm not playing 0. I'm just playing, they're overowned, so I'm playing less of them, right? I saw the Marlins were underowned, so I'm playing more of them. Right, on FanDuel, Manoah was only like 18% owned. I played like 35% of them. Right, played more of them. Played X'd out, but I played 0 Patino. Right, but I also played 0 Lorenzen because I was playing the Marlins. I could have played some lineups with Lorenzen in it, but I thought I had so much Marlins. I'm just gonna play 100 lineups and just get rid of what's the point of having 5 lineups with Lorenzen? I'll just make sure I have more Marlins lineups. Didn't work out. I mean, but it's FanDuel. It's very hard no matter what you do. If you play diversified enough on FanDuel, for you to lose more than like 50% of your entry fees anyway. Right? You put in $444. I think I got back like 300 and change. And like I have like a third of my lineups have Marlins. And 20% of my lineups have Mariners. And the teams combined for 2 runs. Right? Right. And it all came from Jesus Sanchez. So it's only 1 batter. I still only lost like what, 30% of my money or something. But that's it. Then put stuff together. Well, do you play the 8th hitter or do you play the 6th hitter? Are they on the same team? Yes, play them. I don't care. I had Blue Jays stacks with Santiago Espinal in them. There's only 2 lineups. If he fits in that spot, he fits in. Okay, there you go. He fits. Yeah, but he's the 9th hitter. Yeah, but he'll still get 3 at bats, maybe 4 at bats, maybe 5 at bats if the Blue Jays put up a lot of runs. And who says he's not the one that at a shortstop position, right? Then he ends up with, going 3 for 5 with a home run and a double. Yes, he may only hit 5 home runs the whole season, but maybe today's the day. And he's 0.0% owned. If he fits in the stack, you feel okay. Now, if I see that type of player is in 28% of my lineups, maybe I find a way to find different lineups, more different lineups. But they fit in a couple of lineups or whatever. Are they on the same team? That's all that matters to me. 4 batters on FanDuel, all on the same team. What the battering order? Doesn't matter to me. The plate appearance expectation is already factored into the projection, so it's going to do it anyway. The only thing that I will do is go through after I make the lineups. And a lot of times I'm making more lineups than I need. So if I'm playing 100, I'm probably making 150 and then weeding out 50. I will look at the stacks, like at the team in lineup HQ in my lineups page and sort by team, just to make sure that even my team stacks are diversified. Right. So if I'm playing Phil, if I'm, for instance, I could show today on, we'll talk about Toronto. Why not? Right. Let's look at the order here. Now, based on these projections, right, you're barely going to get any. Well, Espinal is a second base shortstop, so you may get some. Tyler Heineman, because you'll have Tyler Heineman and Alejandro Kirk in the same line. And right, and if they're both in the same line, they're both catcher only. So on DraftKings, Kirk is 3,300 at at 7 points. So if you sort by point per dollar, like you're more likely in your stacks to get Heineman than Kirk. Because Heineman provides you with a higher point per dollar value. And remember, the optimizer, that's all it knows. It's just solving a knapsack problem. So most likely, if I'm like, I want a ton of the Blue Jays. I'm not saying we should tonight. I'm just making an example. And you're like, I'm going to have 20%. I have 20 Blue Jay stacks. It's possible in all 20 stacks, you have 0 Alejandro Kirk. Because Heineman has a better point per dollar value. You may barely get any Lourdes Gurriel at a 7.56 projection at 3,700. Right? You may end up getting, and an outfield is obviously more, there's more players in the pool. So I may look down at the Toronto stacks in my lineups page and go, out of these 20 stacks, right? It's like, oh, I have 20 Vlad Guerrero. I have 18 George Springer. I have 16 Teoscar Hernandez. I got 10 Chapman, 8 Bichette. Right, I go down and then it's like 5 Heineman, 0 Kirk, and maybe I have one lineup with Gurriel. I go, well, a lot of these stacks look the same also. Like it's like the same 5 guys with like one person changed. So maybe I say like, okay, well, maybe I want to make sure to get 6% Gurriel instead of 1%. You know, instead of having one lineup out of the 20 with Gurriel, I want 6 of the lineups with Gurriel. Instead of having all of the lineups with Teoscar Hernandez, I cap him. So I start getting more Springer and more Gurriel, more Bo Bichette at shortstop, right? Because it's filling in like Santiago Espinal is in 8 out of my 20 lineups, 8 out of my 20 Blue Jays stacks. And Bo Bichette's only in 2 of them. So it's like, now let me, I want the other way around. Even if it needs to find a one-off as part of that lineup elsewhere, that is a cheap guy, right? So I would do stuff like that. Just to some of the worst feeling in the world. It's not the worst feeling in the world, but it could be. It could be. Is you play MLB DFS and you're like, oh, I'm going to play a ton. I'm going to stack a ton of this team, right? Yeah, I'm going to stack a ton of the Phillies, right? So you stack the Phillies. Are the Phillies playing today? Are they? No. Or the Astros. Yeah, okay. They'll give you the Astros. I'm going to stack the Astros against Bumgarner, right? And take a look if this happens to be the starting lineup, right? Altuve, Pena, Bregman, Alvarez, Gurriel, Tucker, Diaz, McCormick, Maldonado. You're like, I'm stacking the crap out. I'm stacking against Bumgarner a ton, right? So you play Altuve. You play Pena. You play Bregman. You play Jordan Alvarez, right? You play Kyle Tucker. It's like I'm playing 50 Astros stacks, and you use the lineup builder, and it shows you that you have 50 Astros stacks. Yeah, but it's like mostly those 5 guys, and then Yuli Gurriel gets 10 RBIs in the game on 3 home runs, and you have him in 0 of the lineups, and you have him in 2 lineups, right, out of the 50 or something, right? Chas McCormick goes ham. And it's like, yeah, I played 50 lineups with the Astro stacks, and he's in like 3 of them. Like, I'm not saying that he should be in 25 of them, but maybe more than 3. Martin Maldonado is the catcher, man. He's the catcher that hits 2 home runs today. Or he's the only catcher on the whole day that hits a home run, and the 14 points or 16 or whatever, that's what you need. And it's like, well, I'm going to X them out. No, you never know. As long as they're all on the same team. So that's why when people are like, do you gaps or whatever, just 5 batters, same team. That's it. Don't overthink this. Right? So that's what I'm doing before lockup a lot of the times. It's like I've already chosen the teams, the percentage I'm playing of each team stack in my X amount of lineups. How many of pitchers I'm playing, not how many. Like how many? I'm playing 5 pitchers. I'm like, how much of each pitcher? If they're over-owned, I'm playing less. If they're under-owned, I'm playing more, right? That's the concept. Same thing for stacks. Once I got that figured out, then it's just a matter of pressing the build button and then making sure that I'm diversified enough so that, if I have more of this team, I want more of everyone. I want to make sure I even have the 9th hitter, the 8th hitter, whatever hitters. If I have less of that team, right? If I only have, like yesterday, if I were to only have 2 A stacks, how much diversification can I get in 2 A stacks? Probably if I didn't get Sheldon Noose or whatever, so be it, right? But if you have 20 Blue Jay stacks and you have 0 Gurriel, I think that's a problem, right? I'd rather be more diverse to make sure that I don't want the Blue Jays to go off and then me not to have the key player that you needed in a Blue Jay stack when I specifically was going over the field. They were an under-owned stack that I was playing a ton of. I just so happened to not have that one player. I don't want to X out anyone from the team. That's MLB DFS. I've explained it. It's solved. And you use projections. And projections are the guiding source. Because which teams are better than that? Well, you can see that in the projections. Jason Martinez says, just play whoever you want. Yeah. MLB is more like that than anything else, than any of the other teams within NBA or NFL. Teams, pitchers, one-offs, that's it. You're done. And a lot of times the one-offs are being decided by your projections anyway. If you want the plate IQ projections, you can sign up for RotoGrinders Premium, right? Get an MLB only subscription or a combo premium subscription, $10 off your first month. Click on the link in the description. And if you're part of RotoGrinders Premium, I also have my own Discord channel. You get to join the Discord. I'm in the back channel, the Cardi Bros in there, the spreadsheet virgins, as Levitan would say. And in my channel, we talk about all this type of stuff. It's the same thing. If you want to ask questions and you didn't make it to the YouTube shows every day, if you're not listening, if you listen to the podcast, obviously rate and review if you're listening after the fact or commenting in YouTube. But you can always ask those type of questions in that channel. And I also do private coaching there, right? For no extra fee, it's all part, it's value add. So our next, and it's a group environment. So it's not just one-on-one, it's one-on-one with you, and then there's still like 20 people there, whatever. So we take turns. Typically, I talk to 2, 3, maybe 4 people per call. They're about an hour and a half. And the next one is tomorrow, 6 p.m. Eastern. I move them around just to make sure, obviously to fit my schedule, and also to make sure that, you know what, I don't get off of work at that time, or I'm only good on weekends or whatever. We move them around enough. But if you want to join RotoGrinders Premium, get all the tools, get the lineup HQ, you get everything. Results DB is free. You could use that regardless, right? You should be using this. It should be premium. And then join my Blenders Game Theory channel. You can even turn on alerts in the Discord to get, if I post like, the next session is this time, and 5 minutes before, hey, we're ready to go. Here's the link, to join. And yeah, a lot of people like. I get the most fun out of it. Some of the smartest conversations I've had in DFS were in those coaching calls. We've been doing them since like January or so. Hey, there are people doing that. There are subscribers of ours doing things that I didn't even consider doing. They've set up Excel stuff. They're doing that, and I'm learning, right? Conceptually, we're all kind of trying to do the same thing. But like how the process of how to get there, it's interesting to see how other people think. Now, of course, people ask new questions also. It's not just experienced DFS players, but it's nice to have smart conversations with a small group of people, especially when they're not recorded, right? They're not live broadcast and not recorded, because people talk about their own stuff. They don't want it to get out. They don't want people to if they're doing poorly. Like people show their roto trackers and stuff, so that's the main reason why it's not recorded for future consumption. So people feel as if it's okay to be like when in Zoom, it stays in Zoom, right? If there's 15, 16 people there, it's like anything you say, it's only going to be between us. It's not going to be posted on YouTube or shared or anything like that. So if you want to show that you're down $50,000, if you want to show you're up $700,000, if you want to show, let me share my screen and show all of the stuff that you do in Python or something that it's not like no one's recording anything. So if you want to join there. The Discord is hopping. I mean, it was mostly baseball now. I'm assuming the NBA stuff. You get playoff stuff, right? I'm not going to be playing NBA playoffs, but we still got NBA playoff content, and the NBA playoffs never end. Apparently, I mean, like every year it feels like the NBA playoffs. Like, is this thing still going on? So if you want to play NBA playoffs, DFS, you know, we got the content for you there. Sign up for RotoGrinders Premium, and if you want to know more, obviously. And a lot of the concepts that I talk about on today's show, this is more of a review and strategy show, hence the title tags, review and strategy and review, rather than like, who do we play on tonight's 7:00 slate? That's what the other shows are for, even though we do touch about that a lot of times here. But all the concepts I talk about in the theory of daily fantasy sports, I didn't think like a professional DFS player. It's a 15-hour audio DFS masterclass from me at thetheoryofdfs.com. But yeah, we got the morning grind. I'm on the morning grind sometimes for the podcast. You can listen to that for a preview of today's. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 game slate for MLB, and then we got Grinders Live with Dean and the guys. I'll be on Grinders Live a bunch to see. You'll see for baseball. It's not the type of sport where like, oh my God, it's 11:30 in the morning. By 7:00, like whole teams are going to be out, pitchers are going to be like, it's not like the NBA. So it's a little bit easier to say like, okay, more people are going to play this, so maybe you go this way, whatever. It's a little bit easier to do that type of stuff. So we talk about it a little bit more about today's slate, but if people have questions in the YouTube chat, I always answer them. Right, because that's what I do here, helping you become a better DFS player on the DFS pregame show on RotoGrinders.com.